Hello, man. You're playing Farming Simulator 22, and welcome back to the Upper Mississippi River Valley. And looks like we got a bit of a jam up here at the farmyard here. Just a few pieces of equipment waiting to get into the yard here. I think I forgot to take care of those here in between episodes. Oh, well. Anyway, I've got the planter here. We're heading out, or the seeder, I guess, technically based on the game description, right? We got the seeder here. We're heading out to field 42. We're going to get that field planted in double crop soybeans here at this episode. Actually, am I missing a field here? 42, 48 needs to be planted yet as well, right? I forgot about that. I just realized I've got two fields that need to be planted here. I was thinking field 42 was the last field of them, but no. We've got field 48 that needs to be planted as well. Anyway, since last episode, finished up planting field 41 in soybeans. We did that with the 48-row John Deere DB120 planter there, of course. And this episode, I've just, mixed things up a little bit. We got the John Deere 9RX 640 with the John Deere, just air seeder, I guess. That's what we'll call it. That's a nice short name for it, John Deere air seeder. I don't have the liquid fertilizer behind it, as you may notice here. I figured, I plan on wrapping this series up here when we're done with harvest here this year. In the game, that is, this year in the game. Which, it might be a real life year too, who knows, right? But anyway, I figure we don't need the liquid fertilizer tank behind here for planting soybeans, so why take the time to haul that all the way down here? We'll just disconnect that. Seeing as how we're wrapping up the series, when I'm done with harvest, I don't need the tank back behind here, so I don't have to worry about reconnecting it. At least that was my thought process anyway. So, yeah, we'll just disconnect it, left it back at the farmyard there, and don't need to worry about it. I will have to say, well, the John Deere DB120 is probably a slightly larger planter. Well, not slightly, it is a larger planter, right? As far as width goes, 120 feet. This setup is definitely much more imposing, I would say. This is, wow, a lot more iron going down the road here. And rather interesting. You can use this to plant soybeans just as well as you can the DB120. So, which actually that begs the question, Evan. What's the advantage of using one planter over the other? Well, for probably a lot of farmers, especially in the area where I live, everyone, primarily corn and soybeans, and I know a lot of the Midwest there as well. Corn and soybeans, right? A lot of planters, of course, have a corn planter or row crop planter, which can plant soybeans. Or you can also have a seeder that can plant soybeans, but the seeder cannot plant corn, Evan. So rather than having to have two types of planters, you can just have a row crop planter that will plant your corn and your soybeans. And I'm not sure if it's changed here or not, Evan, but it used to be, at least in the past. Most farmers usually figured that soybeans probably actually did better when being planted with a seeder. Soybeans don't seem to quite need the level of precision that, say, corn kind of likes to have. So if you plant soybeans with a seeder like this, one, seeders are usually cheaper. And two, like I said, the seeders, well, of course, another big difference too. Seeders usually are closer together as well, right? As far as the rows go, it depends a little bit on the seeder, varies a little bit. But yeah, usually you're down in the tens of inches or so on a seeder. Well, your planters are usually right around that 30-inch mark, unless, of course, you have one that has 15-inch rows as well. That is another option. Or sometimes you also have, there's so many different seeders and planters, right, Evan? There's also the option where you can have basically planting two rows that are almost right next to each other. Not quite right next to each other, but they're really close, right? That is a type of planter as well. That is also an option. Of course, if you're doing the corn, then you probably just don't plant that second row that's right next to it. But for soybeans, then you can plant both rows. So yeah, is there really an advantage of one planter over the other? Again, I think the biggest thing when there comes down to, again, at least for the Midwest farmers that are doing corn, now you just need one type of planter that can do both your corn and your soybeans. Rather than having to have both a planter and because you need one for the corn, so you already have it, right? And most of your corn planters have usually a couple of quick change outs. And then that planter can plant soybeans just as well as it can corn. Switch out the plates that are in the back. Maybe change out a few other parts. You know, set the planter up for that, and then you're good to plant soybeans. And, of course, vice versa for corn. Planters also, row crop planters, that is, typically tend to be much more precise. Well, seeders, everyone, are, I've heard it described this way, an uncontrolled spill on the ground. That's how I've heard seeders described. And I don't know if that's quite 100% accurate, Evan, but there is some truth to that as well. The seeders, at least like this seeder like this, obviously it meters out how much seed you're putting out. However, where that seed exactly goes, and exact spacing, and yeah, that's pretty much a crapshoot there, right, everyone? Well, you probably know how much seed you're putting down per acre. You don't know how well that seed is spaced out. And when I say spaced out, I don't mean between the rows, but in the rows. The seed spacing in the rows. This looks like a good candidate for some GPS here. So let's do... Oh, I think we're doing 0 degrees here, right? Auto with that. Lock that on, and away we go. Once we're done with this field here, which obviously we won't finish that here this episode, or if we do, I mean, that probably involves some serious cheating to finish that field, this field here, this episode, because this will probably be, what, I don't know, a couple hour job? Maybe not quite a couple hour, a good hour or two long job probably to finish this field, that one. Actually, no, I think I've done this here before. I don't remember the last time how long it took. Field 41 went fairly quickly, as you'd kind of expect, that one. Once you get some headlands done, you start going up and down the field. Yeah, it doesn't take long to plant a field there with the John Deere DB120. Had to fill up, I think it was twice. I believe that's what it was for that field. That might be one advantage to the, say, the John Deere DB120 versus this seeder as well. One could be wrong, but I don't think we're going to have to fill up at all here with this seeder. And we're not even full. I forget what percentage we were at when we started here, but I'm guessing we probably have enough seed on this setup here to plant this entire field. And this field's bigger than field 41 by a fair margin. We can just keep on planting here with this. Versus the John Deere DB120, where we're having to fill up fairly frequently. Part of that has to do, again, John Deere DB120. The seed tanks on that planter really aren't that much bigger than, say, the DB90 or the DB60. They're pretty much, and I could be wrong here, but I'm guessing they're probably all the exact same size tanks, that one. Just on the DB60 or 60 feet wide, probably planting 24 rows. Could be more if you have, 15-inch row spacing. Or, if you're on a DB90, 36 rows. Now that same amount of seed is going for 90 feet, 36 rows. Or, again, you jump it up to the DB120. Now you're planting 120 feet, 48 rows, all from the same size tanks, right? And kind of, if you think about it too, having a very similar setup in some ways as far as the planters are concerned. I think the big difference between maybe a planter and a seeder, though, well, the planter has tanks on it that send seed out to the row units. This also does that. This has a tank on the back. I mean, we're pulling it on the back here, right? It has seed that is sent out to the row units. But on a planter at the row units, you have a meter that is then precisely metering out that seed as far as the spacing is concerned, and of course whatever amount you're trying to put down as well here. Well, it's going to be fun to turn around here, isn't it? Might have set myself up a little bit on this one here. There we go. I think we might be able to make that turn. Yeah, we got it. But yeah, going back to what we were talking about their seeders and planters, Evan. With this particular seeder here, the tanks send the seed out to, not really a row unit here in this case, but it sends it out to where it gets put in the ground, where it just goes straight in the ground, Evan. Yeah, it goes straight in the ground. versus, again, the planter where it goes into a row unit that then precisely meters out that seed. And then usually a lot of the newer planters too, you'll have like a seed tube that will actually then, rather than just dropping the seed, it'll actually like lower the seed down into the seed trench, again, thereby improving accuracy rather than just relying on, gravity to take effect, right? Particularly useful in high-speed planting as well, which that's another big difference there probably as well. When you're typically not doing any high-speed planting with a seeder like this. Seeder like this, you're probably sticking around that maybe 5 mile an hour, maybe a little bit more. Give or take a couple miles, right? Usually right around that 5 mile per hour mark. Versus your high-speed planters nowadays, you're planting upwards of 10, again, give or take a mile or two per hour mark. Now, if you got a farmer that is also planting maybe like winter wheat, everyone, then you'll probably have a farmer that's going to have both a planter and a seeder. Brian's farming videos on YouTube is probably a good example of that. For those who watch Brian's farming videos on YouTube there, they have both a row crop planter, and then they also have a air seeder as well. I forget the model. I like to say horse, but that does not sound right. I know it's one of the red ones there. And I know horse is red, but I don't think that's actually the right one. It is, I'm trying to remember now. I forget what brand of cedar they have there, but it's one of those red cedars, one of the more, what I would consider to be European-style cedars there. The European cedars, I would say, look much different than what the American-style cedars look like. The American-style cedar, let's see, do we even have any? Let's see, do we have an American-style cedar in here? Yeah, something like this. I would say this, and of course, these can get bigger and smaller, of course, but, well, maybe not so much smaller. Bigger, of course, but, yeah, this would be the American-style cedar, the John Deere, here we go, yep, John Deere 1590. I know these were quite common there for a while. In fact, you still see them quite a bit. There you go, got the John Deere 1590. This is, I forget how this works again. I forget if this is 2 or 3. Not sure, but anyway, got that one. Oh, yeah, there's another one. Wow, why do I got so many of these? Oh, that's a single. That's a double. Yeah. So, again, what I would consider to be an American-style cedar here. That's typically what those look like. Of course, you get a little bit bigger, then you get into this style. And you get even bigger, well, then you got what we're using now, right? However, you go to the, again, what I call the European style. Then you got this. Horse Avatar. Actually, is that what, that might be what Brian's farming videos has, I think, right? Avatar? That sounds familiar. Could be wrong. Don't quote me on that one, everyone. Yeah, just interesting there again. I want to see more of the European versus the American style. The American style is probably even more imprecise than the European. The European, they're usually air-driven with meters. The American ones, yeah, I guess they technically have meters as well, kind of, sort of, I guess. Yeah, maybe not quite the extent that the European ones do. Depending on the American cedar, sometimes they're just relying on a couple of gearboxes there. Change gears around. Depends how, changes the speed of the meter, right? Again, I don't know if I'd quite call it a meter at that point, but basically what it is at the bottom of the tank, meters out the seed, and then again it just drops it down in the trench, everyone. Which again, with this, you basically have, it's almost like a cultivator shank, opening up the dirt, and then you're dropping the seed in right behind that cultivator shank there, and then the dirt is closing in behind it. Now, does this have any closing? Oh, dust settle here. What kind of closing wheels or system does this have here again? Trying to actually look at it here. So yeah, there we go. And there you got the, is that where this, yeah, that's where the seed gets dropped in. So that's essentially, again, almost like a cultivator shank. I mean, although you're not usually going very deep with these, so they're not like super beefy like a cultivator is. Usually a little bit narrow as well, because again, you just need a little narrow trench there to drop that seed in. So that's where the seed will be going down. And then also, actually, we have both seed and fertilizer here. Pretty sure it's usually the seed that gets dropped in right behind the shank, but I could be wrong. It could be the seed is getting dropped in further back. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, you got seed and fertilizer being dropped in there. And then you have, this should be the closing wheel back behind it here. Just kind of, well, it's not really closing in this case, I don't believe. I mean, it's more just like packing the dirt down a little bit behind that trench there. Just, again, packing that dirt in. Again, seed to soil contact is very important when it comes to planting everyone. That soil is not in good contact with the seed, well, probably not going to get good, if any, germination of the seed, right? I don't know, if you ask me, when I find all the improvements that have been made in the last years here when it comes to seeding, quite fascinating. Technology, I would say, has moved along quite a bit as far as that is concerned. Especially in the precision department. And then, of course, you factor in GPS too. But now we're starting to get to the point, too, now where we can start, variable rate applying based on your field data. So you got parts of the field that maybe don't produce quite so well, and maybe parts of the field that produce really well. You can change the amount of seed you're putting down based on those areas. Maybe put down a little more seed in the areas that are really good versus the areas that aren't so good. Maybe put down a little less seed. No sense wasting the seed, right? Especially if you have to buy a bag of seed nowadays. For those of you who've never seen what a bag of seed costs, oh boy, better take your pacemakers with you. Well, let's see, what are we, about halfway into this episode? We're making some pretty good time here, I think, if you ask me. Oh, we might have to do a turn around here with this one. That's going to be a really sharp turn to try to make that one there. Can you imagine how much missing area there would be if Courseplay did that one? Oh, yeah. That's what I've always said, you can always tell if I've planted the field myself versus letting Courseplay do it. Yeah, just a little bit of a difference there, right? Although, if you look at field 41, even I managed to miss a spot here somewhere. I don't know how I managed to do that. I probably turned around. I didn't quite have the turn right there. And I did manage to miss just a little teeny spot there. Whoops. Oh, well. What you gonna do, fire me? You know what they say when it comes to making mistakes out in the field, right? Just try not to make them by the road where your neighbor can see them. Or by the busy highway where everyone can see them. Just keep those mistakes to the back of the field, right? And lowering down, locked back on the GPS line here again. Like I say, once you get the headlands done, and then it's nice and easy, just go up and down the field. As I said before, my favorite simulation type game there, right? I'm just up and down the field simulator there. Great game there, everyone. Unfortunately, Giants has kind of removed one of their other great little mini games here in Farming Simulator. That used to be Sink Sim. For those of you who like to play Sink Sim back in the earlier days there of Farming Simulator. Farming Simulator 22 has kind of done away with that here. Sink Sim really isn't that much of a thing anymore. It used to be Farming Simulator 22, or Farming Sim 19 previous versions, for those who remember that. You go to join a multiplayer server, and oh my goodness, sometimes you'd wait like a minute just to sync the game sometimes. It was ridiculous. But yeah, now a couple seconds usually. The game syncs up really quickly. Nice to see Giants has actually finally come to their senses a little bit on that one. Which, as a reminder, by the way, for those who like to join us in on the RDAllen multiplayer servers, you can find those linked down below in the description there, everyone. We ask that you please join us in on the RDAllen Teampseak server. Again, anyone is welcome to join as long as you can play nicely and follow the rules. And, of course, if you like to catch the multiplayer content as well, then you can find that over on Twitch. Again, RDAllen on Twitch. Also linked down below. And while we're speaking of that, everyone, don't forget, if you haven't already clicked the subscribe button, don't forget to do so, everyone. Always very much appreciated. And once you are subscribed, make sure you turn on your notifications. That way you get notified of the next, latest, greatest Upper Mississippi River episode going live. And speaking of the Upper Mississippi River episode, if you like it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Turning around. At least trying to, anyway. Come on, tractor. I just turned a little too sharp there. Doesn't like it when I turn too sharp. Oh, let's see. What are we at? 63% on the seed. Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure when we have enough seed on the tank here, or on the cart. Yeah, they call this usually a cart. And speaking of these carts, by the way, the one we have at the moment holds just seed. But in real life, Evan, each one of the tanks can hold individual products, depending on what you're putting down here. Usually you got one with seed, and then maybe one or two of them, maybe more of them with fertilizer. Looking at the setup here on the John Deere, looks like it has a medium-sized tank up front here. Well, actually, there's another smaller one here too, I guess, right? But then you got a little skinny tank, and then you got a big tank in the back. I don't know if that's... I guess looking at the doors, looks like that is indeed one tank there. So depending on what you're planting, everyone probably like seed up front, fertilizer in the back, and then you have a tank here in the middle. Again, either another fertilizer or who knows what, maybe another seed tank. You can pretty much set these tanks up with whatever you need to put in them. Again, depends how much you're putting down, right? If you put down more fertilizer than seed, you're probably going to want the bigger tank for fertilizer. However, if you're not putting down much fertilizer, you'll probably want the bigger tank for seed then. And, of course, you can put down, if you're putting multiple types of fertilizer in here, Evan, then you can essentially variable rate apply. Well, you can have different rates. That's probably a better way to rephrase that one. You can have different rates from different tanks, right? So your NP and K fertilizer, maybe you want a little more N or something like that. Or, again, depends what you're planting, everyone, and what your current levels on your field are. Big reason why farmers a lot of times, and should be probably a lot of times, having their fields checked. I don't know that too many farmers actually maybe check the field themselves. Maybe you're a small farmer, you might actually go sample the soil yourself, but then you'll probably still bring it in and have it tested just to see what is in your soil, what you maybe need fertilizer wise, and anything else for that matter. Okay, let's see if we can load up some comments here a moment, see what you folks had to say here from last episode. Oh, let's see. Christopher was saying it. No, Black Friday sucks. Wow. Speaking of Black Friday, I am recording this on Black Friday here. This video will, of course, go live on Monday, but the day I'm recording this here is Black Friday, and at least as of the time of this recording, everyone, me and the wife, we did go out and do a little bit of Black Friday shopping here this morning. got back and had lunch, and now I'm working on recording the video here. Found a couple of good deals, you know, when you're an adult, you know, like cat food, and we also got some bedding for our hedgehog. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that in the videos, have I? Not sure if I have or not, but as far as pets go here, we've got 3 cats, and then we've also got a hedgehog inside the house here as well. So, you know, when you get excited for Black Friday deals, Evan, you find yourself a great deal on a 40-pound bag of cat food, and I'm not sure how much. It's like a package of bedding. I don't know if they really sell that by weight, or however they sell it. Anyway, good stuff, right? Good stuff. And then for those of you who followed along in the live stream as well, I mentioned one of the things I was looking for on the Black Friday sales was to see if we get a printer. My current printer does not agree with me, and therefore I don't agree with it. So it's like time to replace it. So I found a nice deal. It's hopefully a nice deal anyway on a printer. Going to be replacing that here at some point. And I found a few other smaller things too while we're out there, you know, Christmas shopping and whatnot, right? Norton was saying, I have course play and auto drive do most of the field work. I think it depends a lot too, as I've said before, on the size of the map. If you're playing on a larger map, like a map of this size, I think you almost have to have some course play and auto drive, right? Or just farm a few less fields. I guess that's always an option too. Hatcher was saying, good video, happy Thanksgiving leftover day. Hey, I don't know. No Thanksgiving leftovers here today. Again, I'm recording this on Friday, everyone. So we had Thanksgiving with the in-laws here yesterday. Tonight we're having Thanksgiving with my parents. So no leftovers. Not yet, anyway. That might be for Saturday or Sunday. We'll have to see once or next week. But no leftovers yet. Not done eating and getting fat here yet. We got one more day to go yet. Christopher was saying, good morning, good video as always, and how was your Thanksgiving? Well, hey, thanks for asking. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving as well, and for all those you watching, I know we're on to probably Monday here with this video, but hope you folks all had a great Thanksgiving weekend here. I know in my case, I'm going to get an extra 2 days off of work, get Thursday and Friday, so a nice 4-day weekend. Not going to complain about that one, right? Me and the wife are planning on putting up the Christmas tree here tonight, hopefully. You know, now that Thanksgiving's over, Evan, now you can put up the Christmas tree. Actually, might have possibly put it up sooner, but been a little bit busy with some real-life projects. Again, for those of you who follow along in those videos, you'll see the videos and why coming up here. Okay, I think that's pretty good for the headland, Evan. The only reason I planted down to this end of the field here, because we have a nice straight edge of the field to start with. And we can start going up and down the field here now. Actually, pretty good if you ask me. I made it around the field here 2 full times, and then we got to pass down this side. Not too bad in episodes of time there, if you ask me. Speaking of an episode's time, by the way, it is unfortunately time to wrap it up here for this episode. So on that note, you folks have any comments and or questions, be sure to leave them down below. And as always, Evan, thanks for watching. Until next time.